Welcome to another edition of the ROTL UK podcast, episode 388, Mourning a Lost Season. My name's Matthew Turner, going solo this afternoon. During this festive period, we've struggled to come together and find a time that we can all stream. So it's going to be a long off season. The boys, we can all come together, I'm sure, through January to April in terms of free agency and draft thoughts. But I just thought I'd come on, especially as I've been ill over the festive period and away, to come on and give my own thoughts about what happened in the Vikings game and, going back to the Pittsburgh game and then, going forward, what do we do now? What does this mean for the rest of this season, the rest of the off season, the players involved, what have you. Hope everyone's well in the chat. Lisa's there. Brent is there as well. It's 3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, so I'm sure the majority of people are working, but hope you're all well. And we're going to get on with this. So first off, do join our Discord channel. Despite it being terrifically sad that we're out of the playoffs, it's still a great place to spend some time with some quality Lions fans. So the link's in the live chat right now or in the audio description of this episode on the podcast stream. College Football Podcast. I know that Ant is extremely busy holding the fort down as his manager is on annual leave at the moment, but I'm hoping that he will be back this week along with Ryan to give you the rundown on what's coming up in college football at the moment. I know that we've got the college football playoff quarterfinals, which will be on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, I believe. So they are coming up towards the end of this week. That's Wednesday and Thursday. So yeah, very, very soon. So exciting times in college football. And of course, things coming to an end and people declaring for the draft and all that sort of stuff. So lots to go through. Please do like this episode, sub to the podcast. You guys know what to do by now. And yeah, let's get on with this. The one thing from this game to note in terms of injuries was Taylor Decker was inactive. That meant that Dan Skipper got the nod at left tackle. And man, did we feel that. Detroit fell to the Vikings 23-10. A game in which the Vikings had 3 gross passing yards from Max Brosmer and 158 on the ground, but 65 of those came from Jordan Addison with 4 minutes to go in the game. Before that, they were held to about 90 or so yards. So the Vikings didn't even have 100 gross yards. Sorry, I should say net yards. 100 net offensive passing yards in this game. And yet the Lions fall to a 13-point loss. And really, it was one of the most frustrating, the most sad games that I've watched the Lions play, because this was like watching an injured animal that has to be put out of its misery. And it's just terrifically sad. You can see them trying to, get up and run around, but it's clear they're not themselves, and it's just good for everyone if at some point someone just puts the bolt in its head. That's what this game felt like. And a huge point of emphasis was the issues between Goff and Agwakin, the backup center who was starting in this game. He played very well against Pittsburgh, and he deservedly started this game, but several of the fumbles in this game, a 6 turnover game for the Lions. That's why they didn't need to do anything offensively, the Vikings. 4 fumbles in this game. And, one of them I think was given up by Gibbs, which was a really nice play by the Vikings. But 2 of them was on the handoff between Agwakin and Goff. That can't happen. That isn't anything to do with pressure. That's just things totally falling to pieces. And really, that even though the Lions were like within a score for the majority of the game, it just never really felt like they were going to do anything. Goff himself was sacked 5 times, but we had 7 on Brosmer. The defense deserves a huge amount of credit for keeping us in this game as long as they did. Yeah, Goff had 3 fumbles. Gibbs had 1. Goff did also throw 2 picks in this game, and they were pretty ugly, I'd have to say, especially the one where it was a kind of quick one-step and throw, and he just threw it straight to Van Ginkel, who made a terrific drive on a break by, I want to say, Jamison Williams, who was running a quick in, and he just saw it and beat him to the punch. It was fantastic. Let's just go through some stats. Goff was 18 of 29 for 197, a touchdown and 2 picks. Brosman, 9 of 16 for 51. The net yardages because he lost 48 on sacks. Detroit rushing the ball, went 68 yards on 30 carries, including Goff going 3 for 2. Monty was 10 for 25, Gibbs 17 for 41. They kept at it, but were just running into a brick wall. It wasn't working. Minnesota, as I said, went for 158 off 28 carries and 2 touchdowns, but Addison was 1 carry for 65 yards and a touchdown. Otherwise, we kept them in check. Aaron Jones, 18 for 53 and a touchdown. Ty Chandler, 7 for 24. Brosman himself, 2 for 16. Receiving-wise, the Lions actually did a fair job in terms of pass catching. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 for 13 for 68. Tesla, 3 for 4, 49 and a touchdown. The touchdown catch, an absolute beaut. I mean, it was 4th down and 8, I believe. 4th down and goal from the 8. Seemed unwise to go for it. And Goff absolutely guns it. And I mean, way higher than it needed to be. And Tesla plucks it out the air, gets contacted in the air, comes down, lands flush on his back. That would have jarred loose from the majority of people. To go up and get it, but actually to hold on to it took some doing. So fair play to Isaac Tesla, who extends his run of touchdowns this season. It's been quite remarkable. He's 15 catches for 221 yards and 6 touchdowns on the season now, and I think has earned himself, well, the right to go into the off-season to hone his craft, to maybe come in to next season being the bona fide wide receiver 3, pending, upgrades. But he certainly has done the business. On the Minnesota side, I mean, they were led by Justin Jefferson, who was 4 of 5 for 30. Their second leading receiver had 10 yards. It's just unbelievable. They did have a fumble, but they got back on it themselves. That was Brosma. Detroit's defense, as I said, were heroic on the day. 60 total tackles led by Daniel Thomas, who had 7 of those. The 7 sacks I mentioned, 2 from Hutchinson, 2 from Al-Qadim Mohammed, 1 from Anzalone, 1 from Tyleek Williams. That makes 6. Where's the 7th? That's good. Can they not count? Maybe I'm being a fool. I can't see a 7th. I don't know. Don't know what to tell you. There were 6 TFLs. 1 was by Daniel Thomas. The rest of them were all counted in the sacks. Some of the sacks were not TFLs, so that's why that doesn't add up. Minnesota, ridiculous day by Blake Cashman. He had 17 total tackles. The next nearest on either side was 7. So crazy amount of tackles. Great day by him. They have 5 sacks. 1.5 by Van Ginkel, 1 by Cashman, 1 by Theo Jackson, 1 by Harrison Smith, and half a sack from Dallas Turner. They also had 3 other TFLs. 1 by Harrison Smith, 1 by Levi Drake Rodriguez, and 1 by Jalen Redmond. They gave the Lions fits when it came to the run game. They were just right in your face. The interceptions, 1 was by Harrison Smith. That was who it was for the interception on Goff, sorry. And then Byron Murphy with the other. I thought the Lions had a good day kick returning. I thought Tom Kennedy was very good. Jake Bates only had 2 opportunities to kick and made them both. 1 field goal, 1 extra point. Rijkaard hit, 11 of their points, 3 of 3 on field goals, 2 of 2 on extra points. I thought he was very good and really we gave them short fields. They didn't manage to exploit a lot of it, and he was the one who actually put points on the board and won them the game in the end. It's remarkable that we turned the ball over 6 times. We win time of possession by 5 minutes. We outgain them in terms of offense by 70 yards. Yards per play is a bit rough and all of this stuff, but whatever. The implications of this game is that the Lions are out of the playoffs now. We are with the Vikings at 8-8, and I think with this loss we are now 4th in division. I actually haven't checked that, but I'm pretty certain of it. Yes, we are. We are last in division, having gone 1-4 in division. A loss in Week 18's game will secure a 4th place finish in the division. Feels like 5th. And it means that we'll have the easiest run possible pending draft, free agency, what have you, for next season, which could be significant. I mean, if we do come 3rd, we play all the other 3rd place teams, and at the moment, that is the Commanders, Falcons, and Rams. Rams are 4th in division. How crazy is 3rd in division? How crazy is that? If we come 4th, instead of the Commanders, we get the Giants. that's a bit of a wash, I think. Saints instead of the Falcons, but that's TBD. Falcons have got Monday Night Football still coming, and then one more game. That the Saints could well do over the Falcons as it's going at the moment. No, the Saints have won 4 in a row and look like one of the form teams in the NFL. And instead of the Rams or 49ers or Seahawks, depending on who wins out of that, it'd be the Cardinals, the 3-13 Cardinals. So I think that's a significant difference. I mean, just for swapping out one of the best in the NFC West with one of the worst, that would be pretty big. I don't think... I'll finish talking about this game, and then I'll come on to those implications in just a minute. In terms of offense, it's hard to pick out some people who really kind of availed themselves particularly well. The offensive line really struggled. That's why there were so many sacks. I think a lot of that came through Agwakin and probably Dan Skipper at left tackle. In fact, that whole left side wasn't great. Awasika, Skipper... it just didn't really function. Mahogany was okay. I know that Sewell obviously had an injury but came back in. I think that Sewell was fine. He obviously was injured and he really just needs some downtime. And I thought Ratledge was fine. Tesla deserves all the plaudits. I mean, Amon Ra consistently moved the chains for us. I thought we had a good day, but otherwise no one really covered themselves in glory. Not least Goff, who, put the ball in harm's way with those interceptions when that was totally unnecessary. But the defense is where a lot of the credit should go. Aiden, we asked for a big game from him to keep us in the fight, and he absolutely delivers, Played 52 of 54 snaps. That's not sustainable. But he got 5 pressures, including 2 sacks. Who else had good days? I mean, we were harrying them at the linebacker position. I thought Barnes and Campbell especially were excellent. You have a look at all of the PFF rankings. Everyone had a 60+ except Rock Yassin and Aleem McNeil. And I think, Rock had a penalty or 2, which probably hurts that. But, even people who've been struggling before, like DJ Reed, had relatively good days. Al-Qadim Mohammed was fantastic once again. He might be playing himself out of a contract here, potentially. Campbell obviously deserves a shout-out. He is still an absolute machine. It's sad to say, really, that if we'd won this game, and it was a very winnable game, I think even with the interceptions for Goff, if you don't have the handoff problems that we have between the centre and the quarterback, we'd probably end up winning this game because they're in key moments, in key situations, in a scoring situation in one instance. If you don't have those turnovers, I don't think it's unfair to say this would have been a totally different game, and I think we would have been far more in this. And then the Pittsburgh game, a very winnable game, a game which we really, should have done far, far better in. We win those games, and suddenly we're at the Bears for the division, which was pointed out by Mike Payton, who... It was a fair comment. It was a tough one to take, the Pittsburgh game, because we should never have been in the hole we were in, but it's a 10-10 ball game in the second half. Go and win that game, and then beat this Vikings team as Max Brosman, for goodness sake. And we're playing the Bears for the NFC North. Instead, we're looking at 4th. It's a really frustrating time to be a Lions fan, but yeah. Okay, so let's talk Week 18. Week 18 at the Bears. What's the most important thing for us now? I don't think the record and being 9-8 or 8-9 means anything. I would love to say that it's been a winning season versus not, but does it really matter? No, I don't think it does. I do think that winning is a habit. I think winning is something that you embody, that you do, and losing is that too. So I would love to see the guys go out there and get a win, especially since the Bears have clinched the division. I think beating them would be a statement to say, you know what, we have been poor, but we're still here. But I think the most important thing for me is that we have, 2 things. We have no more significant injuries to significant players which are going to last into 2026. That must be paramount. We must not compromise next season on the altar of this meaningless game. That's my biggest thought. My other thought is that there are significant players on this team who are bit part players who may play a part in our future who need game time. I would love to see those players get game time. So I'm playing Goff. I don't think it helps anyone if he doesn't play. I'm sure he'll want to play. In terms of our depth chart, therefore, let me just talk about that just a minute. I would like to see Penei Sewell get sat for this game. He's clearly been struggling with an injury. He had to go off again. He needs to rest. I don't think it does him any favours by playing in this game. Taylor Decker's obviously been carrying his injury. I think it's going to be very sad if he doesn't play in this game. He didn't play last week. I do not think he should be playing in this game. Like, if he's got any chance of coming back, just let him rest. He's a warrior. He'll want to play. He may retire anyway. Maybe he's had his last snap, therefore. I don't know. But play Dan Skipper. I don't like it, but do it. In terms of the other guys who need reps, I mean, I would play a Gracken rather than Graham, even if Graham is fit. Ratledge and Mahogany, I would love to have play. Frazier needs some reps. I want to see him get some bits and pieces. Otherwise, I don't see any reason to not play Gibbs and Montgomery, but they're the sort of people that do get injured in these situations. Vaki could do with some reps as a running back. Sailors could do with some reps as some running back. So maybe just have a bit more of a rotation back there. And then wide receiver. Amon-Ra's been carrying this injury all season. He's had a miraculous comeback to even come back into the lineup anyway, but we're done now. Shut him down. We do not need to risk him. Shut him down. What we do need to see is we need to see some Dominic Lovett. You know, we've carried him on the roster all season as a 7th round pick. He's really done nothing. He's had no opportunity. Get him in the lineup. I want to see Tesla and Lovett on the field significantly. On defense, I mean, I don't see any downside to some of the guys who are pending free agents playing in this game because they're looking for another contract. So, you know, Davenport, with all of his injury issues, play him because if he doesn't come back, who cares? Wingo should see some reps here. I would like to see that. There's no one else on the defensive line really that kind of stands out to me necessarily. In terms of practice squad guys, we've got Ahmed Hassanin. If he's fit, it'd be great to see him get some reps. So I'm going to look through anyone else. Yeah, so Hassanin maybe along with Agrakin would be the guys I would potentially elevate here. Linebacker-wise, it'd be great to see Malcolm Rodriguez get a couple more reps. He had a good game last week. Trevor Nowaski, I'd like to see a little bit more. Anzalone is now carrying his injury, of course. On the outside, I'd love to see Nick Whiteside get a bit more play. Daniel Thomas has had a really good season. I'd like to see him get some play. Khalil Dorsey's come back from injury. Might be good to see him get some cornerback reps. There's not a lot else there, I don't think, to write home about. Looking at the other practice squad guys, can we do any funny business to get them up? I don't think so, and I don't think I'd want to, but that's what I'm prioritising. No long-term injuries, development of players, go into next season in a positive, still try and win the game. What does this mean for the Lions looking back? I came into the season thinking that the loss of coordinators wouldn't be as big as everyone said. I think it's very clear now that it's all said and done that it had a much bigger impact than I thought it was going to have. I really believe that Campbell would hire the right people and would get it right straight away. And obviously it didn't happen initially for him. And I don't think it's happened necessarily here, but coordinators and coaches develop. But what's unfortunate is the timing has to be right. The team doesn't necessarily develop at the same time as the coaches, and when the coaches leave, you're now on different, time frames and that sort of thing. So I think Campbell did a good job coming in. I thought there was a notable difference when he came in as OC, but I think also the defense started to fall away a little bit after he took over. So can we get Dan back to being the head coach? Can we get the offensive coordinator sorted? I thought defense generally was good through the season. And I'm positive about how that's going to look. In terms of a feeling about the overall project, I still think it's moving in a positive direction. I believe in this team, but I think that you can't. You can. It's unlikely that you improve every single year forever. If you do, you're going to hit the Super Bowl every season, and that'll be it. Regression is going to happen. Bad luck is going to happen. We had some regression, we had some bad luck, and frankly, some teething issues when it came to the coordinator positions, and that's to be expected. The answer now, the question now, do we have the answer to it, is can we go into next season having had a reality check about what this team is, what it requires to win, and can we, without overreacting to what's happened, put the pieces back in place so that we can be competitive again next season? Because, like I said, if we do our thing against Pittsburgh last week and the Vikings on Christmas Day, we're playing for the North. Like, we are not far away from a division title here. So I'm not going to get too down about this season. But is it going to say to all of these players, like Dan said in the NFC Championship game, it's going to be hard to get back here when he said it 2 years ago? It's true. Can you maintain that level? Can you maintain that grit? And then can we diagnose and self-scout what our issues actually are and address them without going too far? You know, when Kansas City lost the Super Bowl against the Eagles, I think it was, where their offensive line got totally destroyed and they tried to fix it all in one off season. There was a big overreaction to that, and actually it kind of worked, but then they had to lose some pieces and they're almost back in a similar position now. I don't want to lurch too far one way or the other because our identity is our identity. Can we become more multiple? Can we break out of the molds we've built for ourselves to become a bit more of a flexible team? Because I like us living in base. But I think it would be nice for us to say we can do whatever we want from either nickel or base. And we don't really care what you think about what we're going to do because we're going to run either way and it's going to be fine. So I think that I am looking specifically at nickel corner. Nickelback has that sort of position where maybe Branch either needs to step into that again after he comes back from injury. And we replace him with a safety and just say, yeah, he's really impactful at safety, but you know what? This team needs him at nickel. Or we go and get a Swiss Army knife of a nickel, a bigger bodied guy maybe would be quite interesting. I'd also like to see us become a bit more multiple at edge rusher. You know, we've got Aiden and then someone else, and Al-Qaedin's fantastic, especially as a 3, especially as that sort of designated pass rusher sort of type. Can we get someone who actually is a game changer at that position opposite Aiden? We are now talking about, you know, maybe not elite tier, but we need someone that a team needs to account for over there. We haven't had it alongside Aiden so far. And, you know, you look at these teams that do have elite defenses, and they do have at least 2. It's something that we really need to look at. And then it's all about the offensive line, isn't it? We've seen what the backward step is that we've taken after Ragnar's gone. And what we've tried to do is the best that we can in the situation, but it hasn't worked. Glasgow will be probably going. So is it Ratledge moving to centre? I think it could work. I'd be kind of keen to keep him at right guard, but I would understand them making that move. What happens with Decker? Is he going to be playing his last season here? If he does, what's that mean for our cap as well? Because, you know, it's only 1 year of a 3-year deal. And then replacing him, that's going to be tough. Even if we run with exactly what we have, new centre or new right guard, depending on what we do with Ratledge. And then otherwise, Mahogany, Frazier, Sewell, those young guys have got another year under their belts. It will still be up and down, but maybe a bit more up than it has been this year with another season under their belts and a fresh off-season under their belts. I'm positive about what that group could do. But left tackle is obviously a massive, massive question mark. So that would be a big, big thing. And, you know, that Ratledge decision is not to be underrated. I mean, Frank Ragnow himself moved from left guard in year one to centre, but Ragnow was a college centre. Ratledge never has been. But Ratledge now does have a year under his belt in this system. He knows what's expected of him on the line. The verbiage should all be similar to him for next season. So can he parlay that knowledge and that quickening up for him into being able to do the stuff that the centre does? Is the right sort of build for what we want to do at that position? I think that could be quite interesting. Other things that are going to happen next year, the people who've come back from injury and not quite being who we want them to be are going to have another year under their belt getting fit. I'm thinking specifically about Aleem here. Aleem McNeil has not looked right. I have to think that's injury related. I am hopeful that he will come back as good as he was before his injury, which was a game-breaking defensive tackle with a 3-tech. If we've got Aleem next to Tyleek, I think that can really work. But Aleem needs to be absolutely firing, so fingers crossed for that. Yeah, that's all I have really for the sort of moves that I'd like to see happen, or sort of pensive thoughts that we have for the off-season. It is so frustrating that it's ending in this way, especially because the Packers are only getting in. They're only getting in because they swept us. It's so painful. If we sweep the Packers, we're 10-6. Instead, we're 8-8, and they're getting in, even though they've been terrible. And I do not understand the around the NFL cohort of people who think that Green Bay are the second coming. They're in this top tier of teams, because I do not see it. Love, the stretches, looks like an elite quarterback. He does. But he has his stretches game to game where he just doesn't look good enough. And, okay, fine, be consistent. But until you are, I'm not believing in you. And it's painful that they're getting in spite of themselves because of us. That's tough. That's really tough to take. It's time to take stock. If you're a Lions fan, the off-season's a bit longer this year than it has been in the last couple. It will feel familiar to us if you are a long-tenured Lions fan, as I'm going to start claiming that I am. This is my 16th season. 15th season? 16th season as a fan. And this feels very familiar to me. We'll obviously have a higher pick than we're used to, which, you know, will be great come late April. And it means that our off-season as a show is going to be a bit longer. That means that we're not going to be doing any live playoff stuff because we're not going to be in it. But it does mean that we're going to be able to do a bit more work when it comes to trying to find out who should be the next crop of Lions coming out of college. So you can be sure that we are going to be getting down to that as soon as possible. Our draft coverage is going to be best in class once again. And that means that we're going to have a huge amount of guests all the way through the off-season. And then on draft day itself, we're going to try and get a fan or a podcaster from every single team in the league. We're going to try and get some media guys. It'd be great to connect with Jeff Risdon and congratulate him on his move to DLP full-time. And, of course, the POD guys and what have you. So we're going to try and do all of that. We are going to probably be live for the Chicago Week 18 game and do a review show of that. We're then going to have our season awards show, as we normally do, the week after that game. And then we are straight into off-season mode. So we're going to be talking about the holes in this group, our pending free agents, who we want to re-sign and at what price point, who we want to let go, and then using that to project out exactly what positions we should be scouting in a bit more detail. So that obviously is going to include guard center, left tackle, potentially a successor quarterback for Goff for a few seasons' time, because, you know, with our last one moving on, I don't think CJ Beathard is going to be the guy somehow. And then it could be something like running back 2, because David Montgomery, what's his status going to be? We don't know. Edge, maybe defensive tackle, depending on what technique you want in there. It could be a linebacker to replace Anzalone. Safety's going to be up for it, whether Branch moves back into nickel. I mean, all the injuries we have there with Kirby and him, definitely safety needs to be looked at. Maybe nickel, potentially outside corner with what we have. So many injuries to Arnold and Rakestraw, and then obviously Reed's had his this year, and Meek, does he come back? There's so many questions to answer in this offseason that we are not going to be short of content. So I refuse to have my mood be dragged down by this team, because when we're bad, it makes the off-season more interesting. And then we will roll on to another season, as is the nature of sports. Anyway, I hope you all had a great Christmas. Thank you for listening to me rambling on. Hope you have a fantastic new year. We will be back later in the week, probably after New Year's Eve, for a little preview of the Bears game coming up. We'll then be live for the Bears game and do a review, of course. Watch out for Ant and the boys doing a college show. If you're in the live chat, I'm going to stay online just for a few minutes just to read your chat, because obviously I haven't been able to do that when I'm just doing this myself. But if you're on the audio pod, have a great new year. See you in 2026. But for now, let's go Lions One Pride. Okay. Comments. Thank you, everyone, for being so active. Brent said he wanted to see what Hassanin did. I actually took that comment from you. I have to admit, Brent, sorry for stealing that. Lisa says, I think Anzalone and several free agents will be gone this off-season. Glasgow won't be back. Agree. Teething ? We will have a new OC, and I'm unsure about Shep. Not convinced we'll have a new OC. They've talked about developing him. I'm 50-50 on whether it could be. I think there will be some good candidates for OC coming out this cycle, potentially because of head coach firings. Not just Jonathan Gannon, but maybe someone else. I get a DC. Sorry, yes, of course, he's defensive guy. I think we're fine at defensive coordinator. Time to draft a first-round tackle. Probably. I think that's where we should go. It depends if there's a game-breaking edge that falls, because that's the only other thing that could trump that for me. I think having someone alongside Hutch could do some real things for this defense. Mike says we should try and get Tyler Linderbaum. I just don't think he becomes available. I would not believe that the Ravens would let him go. I think you would tag him as a last resort and potentially look to trade him, but I can't. He's one of the best centers in the game. I don't think you let that go. Lisa says we need to keep David Montgomery for another year. I agree, but I think he might be worth more to someone else than to us now. Given what he's put on tape, what he's been able to do, what happened with this offensive line, what we've done with him this season, lack of usage, I would be pushing for a move if I was David. And I think we showed him a lack of respect, really, this season that has really, really disappointed me. I would love to see him stay, but I do think that in terms of his skill set, it is one of the more replaceable positions if you are going to run with Jameer as much as we have. Jameer needs to get better, by the way. I haven't really said anything about that yet, but Gibbs is so boom or bust, and we can't afford boom or bust. The boom is fantastic, but we need someone who can churn the yards. What's really interesting is Jameer's developed so much as a pass catcher that can he make that move full time, and can we have a feature back alongside Gibbs? Because it would be a very interesting thing to have Gibbs effectively be your slot, who can then kind of check into the backfield as and when required. Dr. Detroit says, Fools, question mark, lol, we are drafting 12, right? I mean, Fools in quote unquote, I guess. So currently we are 15. And if we lose and fall to 8 and 9, it will depend on strength of schedule. So Vikings would be ahead of us on the basis of the... I don't know whether division rankings actually matter. They have a harder strength of schedule than us, the Bears, the Vikings. So we're the 8-8 team out of 5 8-8 teams who've had the easiest strength of schedule. If we lost, Dallas could go ahead of us, and we could go level with Tampa Bay, Miami. I don't think anyone would go ahead of us, though, really. Who's Dallas got? So Dallas have the New York Giants. Okay, so Dallas will go ahead of us with a win. So we'll go to 14th. If Tampa Bay wins against Carolina, Tampa Bay get the division title. Carolina fall to 8 and 9, and they have a stronger strength of schedule, so they go ahead of us. So we could fall to 13th. And then Miami have the 30-3 Patriots, who've already locked up the division but are fighting for the 1 seed. I can't see Miami winning that game. So I think 13th. Why do you say the answer is 12, bro? We're not currently at 12. We're currently at 15th. So Dallas and Tampa Bay could go ahead of us, but frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina beat Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay are 1-7 in their last 8. Dallas could go ahead of us, so I think we'll end up at 14. Wraith Dark Flame says, Lion played the first place schedule, so they likely have the highest strength of schedule. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. Strength of schedule is about the current win totals of the teams that we've played, and actually the Lions' strength of schedule is 0.493, so on average the teams they've played have slightly got lower than a even record, win-loss record. The other teams at 8 and 8. Baltimore are at 504, Minnesota 515, the Jets, the Indy at 537, and then Carolina, a division winner at the moment. Dallas playing the Giants, Lisa. Lisa says, I do not see MTDC sitting players unless they do not want to play. I think you're probably right, but I hope that we're smart about it. Wraith says, Demo had big numbers from having all 3 pros on the offense line since primary runs are between the tackles. I mean, but Montgomery was a better running back over Gibbs for the majority of the season when it comes to average yards per rush. I think, at least down the stretch. Because he doesn't take negative plays and he falls forward more consistently. So Montgomery is just a more consistent player. Obviously, the average for Gibbs is going to be up because of the big runs that he had early on in the season. But yeah, we only really had positive yardage running off right tackle anyway. Let's have a look at Twitch. Big Aries has got a lot of chat here. Says, think losing coordinators hurt. I don't think our DC had enough help in the room, and Dan Corn plays midway, not being fully prepared for that. Should have been prepared for it, though. I mean, yeah. Young interior, O-line, not addressing a through-tech dot rotation and edge help. I don't think you can move Rattler. She's not played at center and it'll be a year of pain at best. I agree. So Green Bay just always gets that hype. It's like the Cowboys have a sniff of being good. The media lap it up. Drew. If Campbell has an off-season to prepare to pay call, I think that the running back balance would be better. Maybe. But I don't think he should be doing it long-term. I think that would be really, really bad for us. He needs to be the head coach. He's a good head coach. Be the head coach. Find a guy that can do the OC stuff and then fill in when you can, when you have to. Just having a look at who's had the hardest strength of schedule. Just for funsies. That is the Arizona Cardinals, which makes sense because they're in the NFC West and they are the worst team in it. Other teams that have had really hard strength of schedules. Tennessee at 576. Given the division that's in, they're in with Jacksonville and Houston. That kind of makes sense. And, you know, Indy were not bad. Just weren't as good as they thought they were. Yeah. Okay, right. Anyway, I'm rambling on. This was only going to be a short show just to update you guys on what's going on and to show that I'm alive and that sort of thing. Anyway, hope you have a great New Year's. We will see you later on in the week. Yeah. Enjoy. See you in 26. Bye for now.